price of coffee is skyrocketing and coffee is under existential threat.
That is a bold claim, but the truth is, he's right. This is Jake Berber, and his startup raised $2 million to solve the coffee industry's biggest problem. By 2050, we could lose 50% of all coffee farmland to climate change. But Jake's startup is trying to fix that, and the crazy thing is, it's actually working.
We use around 5 times less CO2 than traditional coffee production, 95% less water, 95% land.
And they're doing all of this while their company is growing at a wild speed. They've signed 50 new business partners in the last 6 months, sold $11 million worth of coffee, and are shipping 5,000 bottles per month. But here's the thing, they aren't trying to replace coffee. They're actually trying to save it.
We really want to make it super clear we're pro coffee. In this case, the bad guy is climate change. It's not coffee.
In this episode, you'll learn how Jake is landing major business deals.
We have currently over $11 million of signed MOUs.
Why sustainability shouldn't be your lead story.
Goods that are labeled as sustainable. People generally think more expensive, less quality.
And what it really takes to build a successful impact startup.
It's this flywheel of having fun and learning. The moment that dies, it's really hard to keep going, and you lose the advantage of being a startup, which is speed.
A lot of the alternative food and beverage companies, whether it's like alternative milk or plant-based meat, they often talk about the water usage or land usage or animal rights or something like that. I'm really curious for Prefer Coffee. What is that core problem area that you're trying to solve for?
The problem that we're solving is that the price of coffee is skyrocketing, and coffee is under existential threat due to climate change. In addition to increase in demand, the price of coffee has just gone crazy. So our mission is to make sure that there's always affordable coffee, but as a bonus, it's more sustainable for the planet as well. So we have done some internal number crunching and found that we use around 5 times less CO2 than traditional coffee production. In addition, we're looking at around 95% less water, 95% land. So while we're getting a full life cycle analysis done in Q1 next year to really verify those numbers, that's sort of the impact numbers that we're looking at today.
And you're upcycling a lot of pretty unexpected ingredients. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of R&D process and what is actually in that end product?
So the R&D process has looked like us trying thousands of different combinations of ingredients and microbes, different processing and fermentation, different processing and roasting. Basically, what we've kind of come up with is the ability to make the same flavors that are found in coffee, starting with bread, soy, and barley. And so our fermentation and roasting process takes 24, 48 hours. So it's quite a bit quicker than traditional coffee farming. But most importantly, we're able to create a product that tastes like coffee, but it's more affordable to get there.
And you're getting the ingredients kind of upcycled from partner organizations, right?
So for each ingredient, we have one company that we work with to supply their byproducts of food production. So for example, we get a byproduct of making soy milk, okara, byproduct of making beer or barley drinks, spent barley grain, and basically bread that's 1 day old that didn't sell in the supermarket that then they send to us so that we can turn them into coffee.
And it looks like with this iteration of the product, you've gotten a really good $2 million seed round of funding. I would imagine for any amount of funding like that, you need a really well-defined problem, a proven and probably differentiated solution, and some traction in market. From Prefer's standpoint, what stage of the company were you at when you did acquire that seed funding? And how did you position yourself in order to make the business investment attractive?
We really focused on, like you said, the problem that we're solving and why we believe that we have the winning solution. The problem that we're solving is a price problem. And so for us, we need to make sure that we are more affordable, but maintaining quality. And what we've been able to discover during our R&D here at Prefer is really unique in that we're able to turn essentially byproducts of food production into high value ingredients such as coffee. That's really what makes this company so special, is our ability to basically create value from essentially nothing by fermenting and roasting these ingredients. And so, yeah, that's what we're really focused on to raise our seed round, was not that we're raising as a coffee company, but we're raising as a flavors company that plans to have a portfolio of different food and beverages that we're making in a more affordable and a more sustainable way by fermenting and roasting byproducts of food production, starting with coffee. And so that really opened up the market size for us and really create a bigger vision that people can get behind.
Especially when you're thinking about developing a portfolio of flavors or saying, hey, we have the ability to turn wasted product into high value product. Did you already have that first like proven solution? Did you already have that compound that is now preferred coffee?
To have that first solution at a small scale. So we hadn't gone to market yet. We had zero revenue, but we had this technology that we developed and this huge vision that we're going after. And DJ is incredibly well experienced, and he's really well respected in the space. And myself, I sort of came in as someone I just care a lot. I have some background investing in food tech. I have some background as an operator in biotech, and this is something I'm happy to do for as long as it takes to work. And so I think people saw that this combination could be a winning team, and so they were backing us as well as the technology.
And is there any natural next step for what types of flavors A you want to replicate in the near future and B what you're actually like what is feasible to replicate?
What we plan to replicate next, and what is quite feasible for us to launch next year, would be a cacao-free chocolate. So we're finding that chocolate has very similar issues to coffee in that the price is skyrocketing. And using the same infrastructure that we're building now for coffee, we can use that for creating chocolate flavors as well. We just need to basically change inputs of ingredients and microbes, change the processing parameters of fermentation and roasting, and then we're making chocolate flavors. And that's really the value of the company, is that we're able to sort of have this platform flavor creation technology that allows us to plug and play what we need to in the same manufacturing site, but then we get different products coming out of that.
I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the earlier days of the business. So you have a really well defined problem. You have this all those small, like very proven compound or solution, and you're kind of looking towards building that traction in the market. How were you approaching finding those first initial users, and who were those users? Were they retailers? Were they businesses? Were they coffee drinkers? Who were they?
Yep. So it's a good question, and I haven't thought back on these days for a while, and it was super fun. I think that what we did was we just spoke to anyone that would talk to us. We sampled with anyone that would give us a time of day, and we were really trying to learn from as many coffee professionals as possible. So that would be cafe owners, that would be Q graders, so people who judge coffee, basically getting feedback from them on the product and the product. And then at the end, we were saying like, so if this were get to a point where it tastes like coffee and we can be more affordable, would this be something you'd be interested in? They're like, yeah, most of them are pretty open to it, at least as an idea. And then we actually went out and did it. And those were our first customers. They were the ones that were like, this is super cool. We want to be a first mover. People are looking for sustainability. And these are small cafes. We launched with 3 cafes to start, just to sort of test soft launch. And then after that, in the last 6 months, we've closed over 50 B2B businesses. So whether that's cafes, restaurants, bars, small retailers, folks like that, where our brand is still there, but our actual customer is the business that purchases it. And then they then sell it to their customers.
It kind of sounds like your discovery is also a bit of recruiting who those early adopters might be so that you can go back to them and say, hey, we actually built this based on exactly what you said. How about you shout out?
I think that the first conversations were never like, we're building bean free coffee. The first conversations were like, hey, are you having issues with your supply? Is your price going up? Is your quality inconsistent? Are people asking for sustainability? And if it was no, 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 then it's like, okay, cool, have a good day. But if they're like, oh yeah, like all those are kind of true, then it's like, okay, well then like I'll keep you posted. We're trying to build out this thing. I'll keep you in the loop if there's anything to try. And then yeah, those are our first customers. Those are just like keen enough to give us a shot.
And it kind of seems like it's not just something that people drink. Coffee in particular is a little bit part of people's identity. Like, how did you find those early days trying to sell non-coffee to coffee lovers?
So I think that It wasn't as hard of a sell because the problem was super clear to them and their coffee prices were going crazy. So they could have a way to be unique in their coffee offerings, but they're making more margins because we're more affordable for them. So that was sort of the sell in for the early days. And then as we've gone on and on, we've realized that the actual value of our ingredient is not to stand alone as a new product, but actually when you blend in Prefer with existing coffee, basically like a blend of 75% Robusta coffee, 25% Prefer, tastes exactly like Robusta coffee. So now we're collaborating with the biggest consumer packaged good coffee brands that have Robusta products, and now they're looking to integrate Prefer into those products so that the end product tastes exactly the same. But these companies are now getting a decrease in COGS price and a decrease in their carbon footprint.
It seems like it would probably be a lot easier in terms of like maybe not entry to market, but perception of the end user because you have those alternative milks and the plant based meats and they're standalone products. So they're very much compared to the quote unquote real thing. It sounds like you're more so just amplifying or extending the product that already exists and people already love.
And I think that that's the biggest change in our communication since we launched is that we really want to make it super clear we're pro coffee. We're supporting the industry. The bad person or the like in this case, the bad guy is climate change. It's not coffee. We are coffee lovers. We never put down coffee in our public communication, and we want to work with coffee companies. So I think that communication is unclear when you sort of hear about the idea. It's like, oh, these guys are trying to disrupt the industry, or these guys, what do they have against coffee? But like, it's that's so far from the truth. We're just trying to support the industry to make sure that we can always have this experience that, like you said, it's emotional. So it's sad to think that that might get taken away by climate change.
It seems like really smart positioning to say we're not the coffee killers. We love this ritual, we love this experience, we love this part of our culture. We want to preserve it actually as long as possible. It sounds like there was a bit of an evolution of how you messaged or how you positioned the brand. I'm curious. I know that there is another time you had to make a bit of a change or a pivot around the product packaging. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
So our first product that we launched as a proof of concept was this oat latte in a bottle. The reason that we launched this was A, to show that we're not just another deep food technology company that gets stuck in the lab. We're out there, we want to get feedback, we want to show investors we're getting revenues in. And also, we wanted to show the big food and beverage companies that, hey, there's some interest in this. We're actually growing, we have some traction. So that was sort of the reason why we launched it. And we were running into some issues with the plastic bottle. We couldn't work with hotels, we couldn't work with some large food service distributors into corporates. And so we went and sourced for glass bottles. And that's basically what we launched now today. And that's our biggest revenue driver today is preferring a glass bottle. And early next year, we're going to even make another pivot on the packaging side of things and be launching Prefer in a Can. We're going to be launching an iced oat latte that basically gets down costs by over 50%. It increases shelf life from 3 months to 18 months, and we can store it at room temperature, which allows us to just scale distribution. So that's something that we're super excited about, and that's upcoming. So we'll have lots to share on that soon.
It sounds like the product line, I mean, taking a step back, the vision for Prefer is to be this portfolio of flavors or flavor creation company. But even within coffee, you have a variety of different products that are serving a variety of different users. So cafes, retailers, even I think I saw Google somewhere, and now consumers. Like, how are you thinking about the business model and where you're spending your time in terms of like what product do we really focus on? Is it the ground? Is it the prepackaged? Is it something else?
I pretty much spend all of my time focused on large long sales processes with the fast moving consumer good companies, the flavor houses, the huge coffee chains, basically using Prefer as an ingredient. They're using it as an ingredient mostly to blend it in with their coffee. That's really where I spend most of my time. We have an amazing person on board that handles basically all the consumer sales of Prefer. So anything in a bottle or what will be a can, that's her. And so that's really how we split the sales roles within the company. So yeah, I just want to touch on basically the different products we have in coffee because it may seem like a lot, but it's actually quite streamlined. So from the coffee grounds, which is basically the output of our technology. Coffee grounds. From these coffee grounds, you can basically take it one of three directions. First direction would be directly into cafes or coffee chains for them to pull espresso shots, and that's going to be a really fine grind size. So that's go to market one. Go to market two is basically you take the coffee ground, slightly more coarse grind size, and you batch brew it like you would a cold brew. And then that's used for all the ready to drink beverages. So all the oat lattes in the bottle or can that you see. And then the third line, which we're about to launch, is instant prefer. So you can essentially take the coffee grounds, put it through an extraction and spray drying process, and then it turns into soluble instant coffee. And that's what's really unlocking this huge FMCG market where we're selling into these large companies that have huge, basically consumer packaged goods that are instant coffee. It also unlocks basically prefer as a flavor, a natural flavor, which unlocks flavor houses. It unlocks confectionery. So yeah, that's basically we started off with just the espresso, then now we've moved into the packaged good under our own brand, and then working into the instant coffee for basically large B2B sales.
So it sounds like on the surface, it seems like a wide product portfolio, but what you're really doing is you're not reinventing the wheel, you're not reinventing the base product. You're really just tweaking that last 10% of the production process to open up a new market.
100%. So we make coffee grounds in our facility. That's it. And then we have an OEM partner who does the brewing and canning or the brewing and bottling. We have an OEM partner that does the extraction and spray drying. So we don't actually handle any of the end product application side. We just make this what we call like the hero ingredient that goes in any different application that you want. And then based on what the customer wants, we send it off to a facility that can sort of put the final touches on it.
If you liked this conversation, then I think you would love the Good Fortune newsletter. Each week, I share new impact businesses from around the world and give you a playbook breaking down the strategies they use to start and scale their operation. In these newsletters, you'll discover new trends and businesses that are changing the world for good. Learn from the impact founders who are on the ground every day building these businesses. And get actionable tips for launching and growing your own impact business. Click the link below to learn more, and while you're down there, you can like and subscribe to this channel so you can catch each conversation as soon as it gets released. Your support means the world to me, and it helps this channel find new people and inspire new businesses that are good for people and planet. Thanks for watching, and now back to the episode. Are there any other like pivots or early challenges or like ways that you had to get a little bit creative as a first-time founder or just building a new company that you can think of?
Biggest pivot has been in our communication and just being really thoughtful about always being pro coffee. I think that we've always been pro coffee, but our communication maybe wasn't clear on that, where we used to talk about how big of a carbon footprint coffee has, because we thought that people might want to learn about that. Or that's interesting for people. But really, anytime that we would put down coffee, we'd get a lot of backlash because people love coffee, like including us. So we found that, hey, that's all right. We're totally fine to not talk about like how we're better than coffee in any way. We're more trying to ensure that there's always a future that's filled with coffee. And that's really what led to all the inbound from these big coffee brands and coffee companies because they saw that we were sort of on their team in a way.
Do you think that when you're dealing with B2B, yes, although sustainability and framing your solution as a sustainable solution is great, but it's really the pain they're feeling is in the cost it takes to produce their product. When you are selling direct to consumer, then highlighting the sustainability benefits of your product might actually be a bigger factor in their purchasing decision. Is that what you found, or how are you looking at that?
We've actually found the opposite. I think that what we've found is that when there are goods that are like labeled as sustainable, people generally think more expensive, less quality. And so what we've tried to do is completely detach from that and just say, hey, here's this iced oat latte. Try it, you'll like it, it's a good price. And then you look at the back and it's like, oh wow, this is like 5 times less carbon footprint. Oh, this is all locally sourced ingredient. That's really cool. So I think we wanted to really focus on the product first and then story, because at the end of the day, like this is only going to work as a packaged good for consumers if people go and try it and they like it and repeat purchase and they tell their friends about it. But that's not going to happen just from a story. You have to be a really good product where people are going to opt into that. So yeah, I think that's something that we've learned from sort of this whole plant-based boom and bust. Like there was a while where it looked like it was everything, but then all that really meant was people went out and tried it once. They're like, cool, whatever, and then they stopped. So we really want to make sure this is like a more sustainable ingredient in terms of our business, not just a sustainable product that people come and try once.
I think that's similar to that seltzer water Olipop. I think originally they were branding it very as like this super healthy prebiotic drink and listing all the health benefits up front. And when they actually switched to just saying, this is a good drink, yes, it has great health benefits, but that's like the icing, it's not the cake. That's when their sales really took off.
I mean, I think they stopped talking about health stuff. They just started calling it soda 2.0, and people were like,
Mm.
"Oh, cool," and then just want to reach for it.
I'd love to talk a little bit more about your background and your transition into being the co-founder of Prefer, because your background is actually in venture capital. What was that transition like? You know, moving from the funding side of things to the founding side of things.
I mean, I found investing super intellectually exciting. Like it was super fun. I was in my head every day. I was making these big theories about what the world's going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years. And I put all this time and effort in and I felt like nothing would happen. And I was starting to get a little bit jaded, bored, you name it, because I was putting in so much input and I was seeing zero output. And even if we were to do an investment, like maybe we'd see something that would be tangible in like 5 years. So that was, yeah, intellectually exciting, but I sort of hit my end of the road there. And then when I became a founder, I just first of all, it's just a lot more responsibility. There's a lot more work and a lot more reward. And I love that. I'm kind of a busybody. I like to have things to do, and to be able to focus on one thing and something that you really care about. That's it's more my speed is what I found. So I'll definitely be on this side of the field for a while, and I plan to continue to work as a founder for the rest of my life. I don't know what how far I, as a leader, will be able to go in terms of like, can I take this to a public company? I have a lot of growing up to do. I think I can, but I know that I love this period of pre-seed, seed, Series A. Like this has been an incredible learning experience so far.
Is there anything looking on this side, on the founder side of things, that you just didn't expect? I mean, you've been spending a lot of your career working closely with founders on the funding side, but is there just anything that's surprising to you or something that you didn't expect?
Really, because I come from a family of a bunch of entrepreneurs. Dad was an entrepreneur. Older brothers, they all have been entrepreneurial in some shape or form. So I kind of got to learn from them and yeah, ask a bunch of questions about their businesses. So I sort of noticed like I know this whole like roller coaster. I got to see my brothers go through it and everything. So yeah, I think it's about what I expected, and I expected it to be completely my everything, and I expect to get obsessed with it, and definitely all of that has come and true.
I'm sure being on the founder side of things and having a family of entrepreneurs, you've probably given and gotten a lot of advice. Have you found that like you it's a little bit hard taking the advice that you in the past life would have given another founder?
I was a VC, I would never give advice because I never felt like I had enough experience to. And I always felt like a bit of a fraud when I was asking someone about their technology that they had a PhD in for 10 years when I had spent 15 minutes thinking about it. So I tried to avoid ever giving advice or anything, but it was a good way to just like talk to the smartest people in the world coming out with cutting edge technology so I could sort of sponge information. But yeah, I did never give advice. And then in terms of my family, like always trying to help each other out. And my dad and I call once a week. He's always asking about the business, and my brother's always asking about it. So it's all a sign of love. But yeah, I'm selective with my hearing.
Is there any advice that they have given you that has really stuck with you through this journey?
They give more like advice on the personal side of like taking care of myself to avoid things like burning out because they've all experienced it in one shape or form. So yeah, it's more on the personal side, just making sure I'm taking care of myself. As a business, like they kind of trust me to run it, and they just hope for the best. But yeah, I think a lot of them, they're excited for prefer to move and conquer Southeast Asia, conquer Asia, and so we can bring it back to the U.S. one day.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into kind of where Prefer is at now and where you are looking to go in the near future. You've mentioned a lot about like new packaging, new products. It sounds like some expansion is on the horizon. So where's Prefer right now, and what are you looking to do in the next 12 months?
So today we are in a bunch of different locations around Singapore. like the people that I mentioned earlier, cafes, bars, restaurants, food service for a bunch of corporates, that sort of those sort of avenues. We will be launching in the Philippines with a coffee chain there, likely later this year. Yeah, basically one of the companies that invested in our seed round, Pick Up Coffee, they have a brand called Single Origin, so that's soon to be announced. And then in terms of the business and scale up plans, we're moving into a much larger and have been building a much larger facility so we can scale up production. We have currently over $11 million of signed MOUs with large coffee chains, fast moving consumer good companies like that. But basically, they need us to scale up in order to turn that into commercial contracts. So we're just doing our best to make more coffee and expand as much as we can.
I think maybe the last thing that we can cover is I know that you have gotten a lot of advice from your family of entrepreneurs. Is there any advice that you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur who's, either starting their own company or kind of has dreams or aspirations of starting their own company?
There's this positive flywheel that I like to think about, and it's super soft, so just bear with me. But it's this flywheel of having fun and learning, and it sounds like I'm teaching a school of kindergartners, but like just bear with me for a second because I really believe in this. So I think that if you focus on working on a problem that you find so interesting that learning about it like feels really fun, and then you really focus on learning as much as possible, then you sort of create this flywheel because you're having fun. So you're going to end up like spending more time on it. And then you're also going to be learning a lot. So you're going to be progressing faster. And then you're spending more time on it. And so like it's just this beautiful flywheel. When you're focusing on having fun and learning, then you sort of just work harder and do better work and progress faster. And so that's I've always felt like that is what we're doing at Prefer. My co-founder and I really try to ingrain that into everyone. Like ask people like, are you still enjoying this? Is this still something that you're interested in? Because the moment that dies, like it's really hard to keep going and you can't make progress as fast, and basically you lose the advantage of being a startup, which is speed. So yeah, as long as you're having fun and focusing on learning, then I think good things will happen.
If you liked this conversation, then I think you would love the Good Fortune newsletter. Each week, I share new impact businesses from around the world and give you a playbook breaking down the strategies they use to start and scale their operation. In these newsletters, you'll discover new trends and businesses that are changing the world for good. Learn from the impact founders who are on the ground every day building these businesses. And get actionable tips for launching and growing your own impact business. Click the link below to learn more, and while you're down there, you can like and subscribe to this channel so you can catch each conversation as soon as it gets released. Your support means the world to me, and it helps this channel find new people and inspire new businesses that are good for people and planet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.